noise of the machine go off, and they'll wade towards the pellets like it's dinner time, like a fucking dog.
It's
like
no
a
different
Pavlov's dog.
than large animals in a zoo.
It's very similar.
Like I understand zoos play a particular role in, you know, breeding programs, conservation. Not all zoos are bad, but I have a particular problem with large carnivores in zoos. Years ago, I used to go to the San Francisco Zoo when I was a postdoc. One night I was at the movies in San Francisco, and someone said, you know, tigers escaped from the San Francisco Zoo and are eating people. And I was like, that's crazy. And this was kind of pre-internet.
I remember that.
So these kids actually went to the San Francisco Zoo. The moats were too low. And these kids, it was around Christmas.
Pine cones.
Yeah, they were throwing stuff
I had a
at
bit
them.
about that too.
So this tiger, Tatiana was her name. I knew about her because she had taken the arm of a zookeeper. At the time, I was trying to date this woman who worked at the zoo. So I was like hanging around the zoo, not to, you know, inappropriate levels.
Not in a creepy way.
Not in a creepy way. Anyway, eventually Tatiana the tiger, after taking the arm of one of the keepers, climbed out of the moat because they didn't have the glass guards there, got out. The crowds were spreading. This was near closing time. Tatiana this is what's amazing, wove through the crowd and went and killed one of the kids that had been throwing things at her. So it was targeted revenge. It was not random killing off of humans.
Right.
And then basically slashed up the other kid. And then just sat there kind of, you know, sampling the blood or whatever. The police showed up. They shot Tatiana the tiger. This is all documented. And for a couple of years, I didn't know whether or not to rejoin. I had joined the zoo. I wasn't like a donor to the zoo. I had no money. I was a postdoc at the time. But I was very conflicted because it seemed like they gave the animals a good life, and yet clearly large carnivores in the zoos, you're depriving them of something fundamental, which is their need and desire to roam. I mean, the reason I put my dog down is because he needed to roam and smell things, and he lost control of his legs. It's not just roam.
They have a deep desire to kill. That's part of what they do. There's a reason why they exist. They exist because there's a balance in nature. You have prey population like antelope and these axis deer, which are the ones that evolved with tigers, and it's why they're so fast. And then you have predators. Like, you know, it's horrific to say, but there was a video of a zoo in, I believe it was Iraq, and right after the war, these soldiers filmed the way they would feed the lions. And the way they would feed the lions is they would let a goat out. And the goat would wander. The goat was like, oh, I guess I'm just hanging out here now. And then the lions knew that once they opened up the cage, the goat would be out there. They were accustomed to it. And so they open up the cage, and this door opens, and these lions just come pouring out. And they grab this goat and fuck it up, and they start tearing it apart and fighting each other over the pieces, and it's wild shit. But that's what they want. They don't want a cold plate of dead meat.
No, they have
what they want.
They, you know, as you're saying this, my neurobiologist mind goes.
Yeah, this is the video. This is the video. So these goats are hanging out. Oh, hey, how's everybody doing? And then boom, all these cats come rolling out. And this is how they fed them. But this is what they want, man. I mean, people would say that's cruel. But listen, you got to kill the fucking goat to feed these things anyway. Like, why is it cruel if they do it, but it's not cruel if you do it? Because it's going to be more humane because you're going to kill them with a bullet? Like, I just don't think the goat is going to really care one way or another. This is the last day of its fucking life. And this is what a cat is supposed to do.
Sure.
And they're pretty effective killers. It's not like they're going to torture it like a house cat will.
No,
That's
this is a
sick
circuit.
About house cats.
There's a really interesting study. There's a guy at Caltech, great university, obviously, a guy named David Anderson who studies things like aggression and whatnot. And he's looked at these. The hypothalamus is really interesting. It's like this group of neurons. They're all densely packed together. But with modern methods now, you can really turn on and off the different populations of neurons. So they did this study a few years ago, looking at an area of the hypothalamus called the ventromedial hypothalamus. And for years, people were confused about this area because you'd lesion it in an animal, and the animals wouldn't fight, but they also wouldn't mate. And what they eventually discovered is they have two populations of neurons in the structure, some that are responsible for mating and some for fighting. So then, using modern methods, what the Anderson lab showed is that if you trigger activation of one set of neurons in this ventromedial hypothalamus, the males will go and mount the female and mate. These are mice. If you at that moment turn off those neurons and turn on the neurons that are right near them, that are responsible for aggression, the male mouse will try and kill the female mouse.
Whoa.
But it's so extreme that if you just give a male mouse a glove filled with air or water and you turn on these neurons, the mouse will just go into a